Yo, what is up guys, Gray here, and today we have got our week 3 battle of the APA Academy against Rewt and his New Jersey Brobats. Really nice guy. Make sure to go and check out his channel if you haven't already. It's probably a good chance that you would come to my channel watching his week 3 battle, but if you didn't, then make sure to go check him out. Really great content creator, really nice guy, great battler as well. And yeah, this is a scary team. I should probably preface this by saying he actually made some trades, and I believe the Ferroseed, Quagsire, Rhydon, and Serena he didn't have for our battle. He had a Appleton, Galarian Rapidash, Colossal, and Garboda instead. So this graphic is a little bit wrong, but you can get the general gist of what his team is. Looking at it, his Grimmsnarl Gmax is obviously a threat. Big problem for my team. Melmetal is a big threat to any team. Granted, I do have possibly one of the best checks to it in the game in Rotom Wash. Still going to be a problem, still something I need to play around. And then he's got things like the Rotom Heat and the Inteleon, which, depending on how the battle goes, can be a problem to me. Silvally can be any type, and it's always a problem. And Mudsdale is actually a really nice check to a lot of my physical mons. Outside of that, he's got Appleton, which I believe is one of his best all-round checks to my team. Weirdly enough, it just I struggle to break it, and if I don't play this, if I don't play it around it correctly, it could actually just sit there and eventually just wear my team down. So I need to make sure that I get a Toxic off on that early, spoilers, and bring in Toxic, and I hopefully will hit it. With my luck, you never know. But yeah, looking at our team, certainly the things like Grimmsnarl and Melmetal are the big standouts, and you'll see that I've tried to prep pretty damn hard for it. So I'm going to go back onto this one, and I should probably have already got this loaded up. Where is my week 3? There it is. So first off, we are bringing a weird ass Celebi set, and I will admit this is just weird. It could work, but it's also kind of checked by a lot of things on his team. First off, we have got Earth Power, Reflect, Toxic, and Recover with a Light Clay, running very physically defensive, which seems like a really weird way of running this, but this is a second answer to his Melmetal, because I didn't want all the pressure to be on my Rotom. Rotom has a hard enough time checking various things on his team, such as the Inteleon. I didn't want my I didn't want it to go down to one thing and then his Melmetal just has free reign over my team. After a Reflect, Double Iron Bash does not 2-hit KO me. It still does a ton of damage, but it's not nearly as bad. It also gives me a pretty good chance to set up with my Excadrill or my Garboda on his team. So, but I say set up to get my Gmax off, and his Mudsdale can't do a lot of damage. Mudsdale is the one thing I expect to come in for this Garboda, because he doesn't have a lot of great switch-ins outside of his Melmetal, and I don't expect him to want to switch his Melmetal in to take that much damage. So yeah, Earth Power is here to hit the things that Toxic doesn't effectively. No stab at all, just running straight Earth Power, because the two things that Toxic doesn't hit is the Garboda and the Melmetal. And to be honest, I probably want to Toxic his Grimmsnarl as well, and any other bulky mons, maybe his Silvally I want to get Toxic off on. I don't really care that much about his Inteleon, but this does kind of check it. My Rotom is more of a check to his Inteleon than this is, but it certainly can double up as a check to his Inteleon if I want it to. But yeah, it's basically here to be bulky, and it can actually stall out various things on his team. If he has a physical Silvally, it can sit there and just all day, unless it's Swords Dance, it can Reflect and then just Toxic Earth Power until it dies and recover when it needs to. All of his physical threats actually just don't really like this Celebi at all, outside of the Grimmsnarl, and Grimmsnarl is a Grimmsnarl. It's going to do its thing regardless of what I bring. So next up we have got our Rotom Wash, fairly standard for when you're facing a Melmetal, running Rocky Helmet with Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Will-O-Wisp, and Pain Split. Volt Switch obviously for the initiative, Hydro Pump to do damage to things like the Colossal and the Mudsdale, Will-O-Wisp to just nerf the Melmetal as much as I possibly can, and it also doubles up as something of a check to his Grimmsnarl, because it will outspeed, hopefully, unless he's running a lot of speed in his Grimmsnarl, and I'll be able to get a Willow off before it can do any real damage to me. Pain Split is just there for getting health back, because I don't have any way of recovery in this game outside of a Wish Pass from my Aromatisse, which actually is quite nice. The things that Aromatisse bring in, my Rotom Wash actually wants to take on, so that works out quite nicely. But it's still, with the Rocky Helmet, hopefully it's going to do enough damage to that Melmetal to make it work. And yeah, that's my Rotom. Next up, we've got Choice Scarf Excadrill with Earthquake, Iron Head, Rock Blast, and Poison Jab. Running probably the most standard EVs you will ever see me use. It's 252, 252, because I could have run a Speed Creep on his base 85 mons. I can't remember from the top of my head what that was, but I could have run a Speed Creep on something, but I felt like it just wasn't worth it. Just in case he wants to try and get cheeky and Speed Creep on my Speed Creeps, I just want max speed. And I fully expect him to go max to outspeed a max speed, but you never know, you might just catch someone off guard if you because that extra 12 in defense or whatever was just going to not really help me at all. I'd rather just get max speed and potentially catch something that's trying to be cheeky and Speed Creep my Speed Creep. Outside of that, Mold Breaker is obviously here because he has got Rotom Heat, and Rotom Heat, even if I was Sand Rush, I could obviously do things. I'm not bringing Tyranitar, as you can see, so Mold Breaker is fairly obvious, but Earthquake is going to one-shot that. Outside of that, I've got Rock Blast for a sub Rotom, I've got Poison Jab for the Appleton, and also to just kind of try and spread some poisons if I can, because it does seem like Mudsdale is a really safe switch into this, but also Celebi is a really safe switch into Mudsdale, so it kind of works back around. Poison Jab would be really nice if I get the poison off on a Mudsdale as well. It does weaken it, and it doesn't have any reliable recovery. If it's running Rest, then it runs Rest, but it's good information for me to know. Next up, we've got our G-Max Garbodor. It's the first time we're bringing it, and it's week 3. But our G-Max actually beats his G-Max to an extent. So we're running weak armor with Gunk Shot, Drain Punch, C-Bomb, and Spikes. Obviously, we've got to hold a Pokeball, so I've gone for a Lure Ball because it's an interesting design. It kind of, to me, looks like a McDonald's ball, and I don't know why. But enough about the Pokeball. This set is just here to do damage. Effectively, it's going to do enough offensive damage to his Mudsdale, which is, in my defense, the best switch into it, that it can actually just alleviate, like, it basically makes my Excadrill just be really good in a late game, because once his Appleton, if he brings it, and his Mudsdale go down, Drill just runs through his team. Pretty much just straight up can beat his entire team with Earthquake. So yeah, my Garbodor is just kind of there to deal with those two. I don't in any world expect him to stay in with his Appleton, so it is what it is. But Malador is really nice. If I can get the poison off on his Mudsdale, then that'd be great. Drain Punch is just so I can keep up with his stamina, so I can keep being at the same, or at least I have one attack, which I am the same attack as he is defense, so it's neutral still. Seed Bomb is there to hit his Mudsdale, but also set up the grassy terrain, so if he brings Earthquake, then it's doing less damage. And I got Spikes just for something to splash on at the end, because I got weak armor, so I'll be faster against his entire team. If he does go Mudsdale and click Earthquake, I'll be outspeeding his entire team after a couple of weak armor boosts. And yeah, I can then hopefully set up a Spike, and that'd be kind of nice for the late game, especially for Drill. Does appreciate it. Next up, we have got our Noivern, again with heavy duty boots. This time we're running Hurricane, Boomburst, Flamethrower, and Roost. Modest with enough speed to outspeed something on his team. Again, couldn't tell you what it was, but there's enough speed to outspeed something on his team. And running Modest again, just get like as much damage as we possibly can. Hurricane hits the Appleton for as much damage as it possibly can. It also is just relatively good, like fairly splashable against his team. Boomburst to hit the Rotom Heat, because Rotom Heat takes my other two attacks really well, but doesn't really appreciate a Boomburst much. Flamethrower is for his Melmetal, and I've just got Roost to keep myself healthy, because Boostio, yep, that's his nickname. Noivern is pretty good in the matchup, just generally. It's like it's fairly easy to switch in and out, and with the heavy duty boots means I can kind of keep it around for longer, and its speed tier is so nice that I'm fairly happy just to keep it and click Hurricane over and over. And then last up we have got our Tisse, which is an interesting set to say the least. Two very interesting sets this week: Moonblast, Disable, Wish and Protect. So if he is Melmetal with double Iron Bash, which I fully expect him to be, and he knocks out one of my mons prior to it, then I can click Disable. I am running quite a bit of speed in my Tisse this week, not as much bulk as maybe I would have liked, but a pretty good amount of speed to counteract that. I'm running Disable to be able to disable his double Iron Bash, and really it doesn't do anything to my Tisse after. So I can Wish and then pass it into something else, or I can just start clicking Moonblast if he's relatively low and hopefully be able to take him out before he gets a recovery, before he does any damage. Wish Protect is obviously just, it's a Tisse, it's here to be a cleric, it keeps my Rotom Heat healthy. If I need to, I can switch my Excadrill in afterwards and hopefully get that back up to full health. It's just generally a nice cleric, though I do have some recovery on my team. Having the Wish Pass and just a general nuisance being a Tisse is really, really nice. Moonblast hits what it needs to hit, the Appleton and the Grimmsnarl for good damage. I'm trying to think what else he has. He actually does a pretty decent chunk to his Inteleon as well, so that's really nice. This basically is my best Inteleon switch in, because Scald is not going to do a lot of damage really at all to me, and it does keep my Rotom at a good amount of health. Disable also doubles up as a way to stop his Appleton from actually being able to 1v1 me. If I go for Wish and Protect is obvious, then I can go for a Disable instead, and hopefully be able to disable his Apple Acid, which is really the only thing that's stopping me from being able to just 1v1 him, because Moonblast will do a good chunk. And yeah, that's the team. It's a little bit weird this week, but then the matchup kind of required me to bring something a little bit weird. So I'm actually really excited to use this team. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting battle. Rewt is a good player and has a really, really strong draft. So yeah, I will catch up with you guys in the battle in a second. Okay, so here we are in the battle, and first off, that is a Garbodor. I did not prep really at all for a Garbodor, and secondly, there is no G-Max Grimmsnarl, there is no stumbling over words, no Melmetal. So yeah, a lot of prep kind of gone to waste a little bit, because I did prep a lot for those two, but at the same time, I'm not complaining. These sets can still do quite a bit of work against the team they brought. I definitely expected the Inteleon, Mudsdale and the Appleton. Silvally, I didn't necessarily expect. We're going to have to see what type that is, what kind of set it is, because normal actually isn't bad against me. And then Rotom Heat, again, we're going to have to check what set that is, because that's what my speed on my Excadrill was for. I just remembered Choice Scarf Rotom, and it really was not worth having the extra like 4 in HP. So yeah, looking at the matchup, I felt like I'm pretty sure I needed my Noivern here, because Noivern generally has a pretty good matchup. I maybe should have watched this one back before I decided to record, but we're going to go walk this one through together, and if I remember what my plays were, then I remember what my plays are. So yeah, we're going to lead off with our Noivern, and I think, I don't know if I outspeed this. I don't think I ever planned to stay in on this situation, and I fully expected the Rotom to come in as a switch to this. So my middle ground play here is always just to go Rotom. If he clicks Ice Beam, then my Rotom takes it just fine. If he goes for into the Rotom to try and check my Noivern, then Rotom again is a good switch. So I'm just going to hard switch into my Rotom, and here we see that I switch first, so I know my Noivern is quicker, which is really nice. Whatever speed I put into it was the correct amount of speed, and yeah, we're going to see that it's Rotom versus Rotom, and I'm going to get the slower Volt Switch. I know this thing can't really do much to me, but it toxics me. It's not ideal, but I didn't really expect Toxic against my team. I think Willow was probably better. So it was a risky play, but I'm just going to go for this slow U-turn, and 100% expected the Appleton to come out, and I can go back into my Noivern this was a little bit risky. I perhaps should have thought it through, but because my Noivern doesn't actually KO this Appleton from full with Hurricane, he doesn't know that I don't have Draco, which I believe did OHKO it from full. Depending on his set, if he was fully Fizz Def, which I expected, because I have Sandcore, I 100% expected this to be physical, or physically defensive, so I'm just gonna switch. I know, actually I go for the Boom Burst, I believe. Okay, I remember these turns now. I went for the Hurricane because I didn't expect him to stay in, but in case he did, I wanted to get off a good amount of damage on that Appleton. Taking that Appleton down is one of my win cons for my Excadrill, because if you look at his team, he really does not appreciate it whatsoever. There is so little on his team that can take an Earthquake, it's kind of crazy. But if I get rid of the Appleton and I get rid of the Mudsdale, then I'm in a really good place. And here I go for the Hurricane. Unfortunately, I miss on the Rotom. It just means that Boom Burst is not a 2-hit KO after that initial bit of damage. But it is what it is. I'm just going to go for a Boom Burst, and that does 49%. I don't remember what set he was running, but it was fairly quick, shown by his Volt Switch speed. So he ran enough speed to outspeed something on my team, and it definitely outsped my Rotom. But I don't really fear anything from this. If he clicks Will-O-Wisp, then he clicks Will-O-Wisp. It's my Noivern. It's not physical, it doesn't care. And Boom Burst was always going to do a decent amount of damage. Here he actually does go for the Willow. If he went for a Volt Switch as well, then again, that's not the end of the world. It does a decent amount of damage, but as you're going to see here, it only does 32, so I could actually roost on something. And surprisingly, he goes into his Silvally. I say surprisingly, he really didn't have anything to deal with this Noivern particularly well. And I think he probably just thought he could threaten me out, because there's no way I can OHKO it with any of my moves, and Ice Beam is a potential move that he could be running that could be a problem to me. So I am just going to make a switch. I'm going to go safe into my Rotom. So he goes for the multi-attack, and that does 41%. So in this matchup, it was a case of Rotom was here for the Melmetal and potentially the G-Max Grimmsnarl, and the fact that it didn't, neither of those turned up, it was a little bit kind of, I could throw it away a little bit, but at the same time, if I ever got my Aromatisse in on his Inteleon, there was a 100% chance I would be able to get my Wish up and pass it to my Rotom. Like, as long as I played it right, my Rotom could stay alive much longer, and it took a ton of damage from that multi-attack, which proved that it was offensive Silvally. And we also see it's Silvally normal, so it could be running any item. He's going to take the Rocky Helmet damage, and I'm going to go into my Celebi, and I'm not going to reveal my set straight away. I definitely don't expect him to stay in. Judging by that damage, he knows that I can just sit there and recover stall it if I'm running recover. So I expect him to go out into his Appleton. Obviously the Rotom was kind of a sack as well, but I click the Toxic and we get the Toxic off on the Rotom. And I'm in no business to stay in, so I'm just going to go ahead and switch out to my Aromatisse, because again, if I get my Aromatisse in on this Rotom, I can Wish, and if he goes for a Volt Switch on his turn, then I can get in my Rotom and Wish up my Rotom. So as it turns out, he actually goes into the Inteleon, and this Scald does a good amount of damage. We've seen it splash bait from my Frisk earlier, but I'm just going to go ahead and pass off that Wish to my Rotom. I could have stayed in and wished myself back up to health, but I didn't really see any reason to. Maybe he goes into the Garbodor there, and that puts me in a bit of a bad position because I haven't prepped for it particularly well. And also I know that my Rotom here can take a hit, and having this at a good amount of health is actually really, really nice for me. He's going to take some Rocky Helmet damage, and we're going to get up to almost full, and I can just Volt Switch on this Appleton all day. Big crit, by the way. Did really, really mattered. As he's going for a Leech Seed, it's a little bit annoying for me, but I know I can still Wish up on this thing. And I'm actually going to still double out. Expecting the Apple Acid, I just kind of want to scout his set a little bit as well. And I'm going to go back in on the potential Dragon type move to get the Wish up. I just didn't want to be seeded. I think that was the main thing. I just want to get rid of the seeds, and I knew that he wasn't going to go for a Dragon type move on that switch, or there's a good chance he doesn't go for a Dragon type move. And I thought maybe he would fear the Aromatisse, but clearly not. And he's going to double out and make a very interesting switch. As I go out to my Celebi, he goes for Apple Acid, and then switches out into his Inteleon. It didn't make much sense for me to go for a so brain just stopped working. It didn't make much sense for me to go for a grass type move on his Appleton, so I understand. But at the same time, like a Psychic would have done a good amount of damage to this Inteleon. So it's a bit of a risky play, but it kind of pays off for him. He gets out his Inteleon on my Aromatisse, but I do feel kind of free to just get a Wish off here. I can Wish Protect and just kind of stall it. And here I'm going to go into my Celebi, because even though like Mudsdale probably couldn't KO me from there, the Heavy Slam would really hurt. And if I protected, then there's a good chance that I end up in like a worse position where he's got rocks up and he can potentially Heavy Slam me. And I really want my Celebi to be back up at full health. It's taking a decent amount of damage at this point. And keeping my Celebi at a good amount of health actually really restricts what he can do. And here I was like, okay, well, if he goes into his Rotom, he goes into his Rotom. It's toxic, it will effectively die soon. But I'm going to click Toxic again. If he stays in with Mudsdale, that Toxics that, and Excadrill has a good time. If he goes into his Appleton, I can Toxic that. And again, that's ideal for Excadrill late game. So just going to click the Toxic, and he actually goes out into his Appleton, and getting this Toxic was like one of the biggest win cons that I had in this battle. So really happy I made that play, as I'm going to go back out into my Aromatisse on his Inteleon. I'm not sure if he read this or not, but going back into Inteleon, like, he just doesn't seem to care if I'm going to go for a grass type move or anything like Psychic. He just switches in this Inteleon fairly freely, and he's going to throw off another Scald. Doesn't get a burn. That's 2 Scalds, no burn. So I'm getting kind of lucky on that, and I am just going to go for the Protect. I have absolutely no reason not to, as he goes out into his Garbodor, and in case this thing is running some weird set, I wanted to go out into my Excadrill. Looking at the matchup, though, it had a really good matchup. It could afford to take some damage, and yeah, an Earthquake should threaten this thing out. Again, unless it's running some weird set, and he actually stays in and takes the Earthquake. The Shucker, it still takes 57% despite the Shucker, and he now has a Spike on the field, which is a little bit frustrating, but not really the end of the world. So he's actually going to show to be weak armor, and at this point I was fairly sure that he was going to outspeed me. Like, it made sense, and he hits me for 49%, which is the exact percentage that's going to KO me after rocks. I was looking at this and I was like, okay, well, I have other ways of winning this battle. Noivern is pretty free in the late game. The things that were checking it before are no longer checking it, and Aromatisse plus Rotom Wash plus Celebi should be able to win me this game once I weaken his defensive core. So I'm free to just, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for an Earthquake, and I may outspeed it because I'm Choice Scarf. Like, it's still a good chance I outspeed, but he may have gone for speed on his Garbodor to outspeed a Scarf set. I don't know. I didn't really check the damage, but as it turns out, he does not outspeed me, and I just go for an Earthquake. Here he has a bit of a moment and sacks off his Rotom. I have one of those later in the battle, so we are pretty much even. He had like a switch into his Appleton, he had a switch into Mudsdale, and for some reason he forgot about Mold Breaker. It happens, and yeah, his Rotom just drops. It was gonna die anyway. It was on 8% and toxic, so it's not a big loss for him. But now he goes into his Appleton, and again I'm just gonna go Aromatisse. At this point it's a little bit of annoying for him because he can't seem to break this Aromatisse. As I'm going to go for a Wish, I definitely take another Applast after the Leftovers recovery. And oh yeah, I'm going to Protect first to get a bit more health back. I have no reason to. If he wants to switch out, then he switches out. If you go into Inteleon there, it could be a bit of a problem, but I do still have my Rotom around, so at the same time his Inteleon kind of gets checked every time it comes in. I'm going to throw off a Wish, and this time I expect him to go for another Apple Acid, or potentially a Recover on my Wish. Sorry, I'm going to Protect. So I'm going to go for Disable, I believe, on this turn. As he actually he gets, of course, 100% Death Drop. I was like, what's going on? And I'm just going to disable his Apple Acid. He actually makes a good read and goes for Leech Seed. Unfortunately, he does miss that Leech Seed. I need a drink. I'm slurring my words. And that's really nice for me. So at this point, my Aromatisse cannot be touched by this Appleton. I'm just going to throw off a Moonblast. I have no reason not to at this point. I don't think I even... Yeah, I don't Wish, just in case his Inteleon wants to come in. Inteleon takes 48%, which is a hefty amount of damage. I'm just going to go for a Protect, get myself a little bit more health, and I'm going to go hard into my Rotom. He's going to go for U-turn again, and the Rocky Helmet chip on this is really helping me out. And he goes back into his Appleton. As always, I'm going to Volt Switch, and I'm going to go into my Aromatisse. He actually tries to be proactive here and go into his Silvally. I'm not entirely sure why he took that damage, but I think he just wanted to get out of this rut of Aromatisse stalling out his Appleton. He knows at this point it cannot actually stall, like the stall goes in my favor. So I think he just wanted to try and be proactive and get his Silvally out on what was potentially my Aromatisse. Here I should have 100% gone into my my Celebi, because honestly, Celebi every time it comes out at this point is a problem for his team. If he brings out his Appleton to check it, then I go into my Aromatisse. If he goes out into his Mudsdale, it's going to be taking what he thinks would be a Giga Drain. Same with Inteleon, like there's no safe switch-ins for him on Celebi now. But I go into my Garbodor. I think it's about time that I try and get that Mudsdale chip down. His Appleton is actually at a low enough amount of health that Ironhead is looking kind of nice. Like Ironhead does just sweep up the game at this point, it looks like, because Inteleon is so weak. So I'm going to go into my Garbodor, and I'm just going to try and I think I go for the Drain Punch here. So Max Knuckle. You can't even see the Mudsdale behind the Garbodor. Yeah, I go for the Max Knuckle, which puts me back to neutral and him to +1. Then I'm going to go for the Max Overgrowth to lower his Earthquake damage. He is now at +2, and I'm going to be doing negligible damage with anything that I run. And I'm then going to go for the G-Max Malador to poison this. So trying to get as much chip off as I can. Obviously that does no damage, and he is now going to put me really weak with Earthquake. And here I make a bit of a misplay. It's not a big one, but instead of going for spikes, I decide for some reason that I want to go for a Seed Bomb. Spikes really was the play here, because if I was to go into my Rotom after this, then he's going to be at a low enough amount of health regardless that he just doesn't take Hydro Bump at all. Not to mention he can't really touch my Rotom at all with his Mudsdale, so why I didn't just set up a Spike and make it really costly for him to switch, I do not know. But in the end, he goes for the Rock Slide. We do a decent amount of damage. Like, his Mudsdale is now relatively well chipped down. And we're going to go into our Rotom. So my mindset here was, if he stays in, then it's fine, because he doesn't really do a lot of damage to me. And I can, if I go for Volt Switch, it's not like a big punishing play. And if I go for Hydro Pump and he goes into his Appleton, it does give him the free setup again. By setup, I mean he can recover and be back at a reasonable amount of health, in which Ironhead would not do it KO it. So I absolutely had to go for the Volt Switch here, I felt, to try and gain that momentum. As he does go into his Appleton, I Volt Switch out, go into my Aromatisse yet again, back into this little loop, because now Aromatisse is in a position that it can pretty much just pick up a KO every time that it comes in. Moonblast will kill this Appleton, it will kill the Inteleon on switch, and it'll do a very, very good chunk to his Silvally. Silvally cannot one-shot me from this range, and Moonblast will then take him out. And Mudsdale, again, Moonblast is going to do a good chunk to it. So I'm just going to go for the Moonblast here. He's actually getting a good amount of recovery, as am I, from this Grassy Drain. And the Moonblast is just going to take out his Appleton. I think at that point, his Appleton could have done something, but at the same time, it was more of a hindrance, because this Aromatisse was just coming in every time. And at this point, my Aromatisse is kind of just unkillable. Here I go for a Protect, partially to scout for the Heavy Slam, also to scout for, also to get Lefty's recovery. And I didn't believe he was going to click it twice, but just in the off chance that he did, my Aromatisse was still pretty good in this matchup. I go out to my Rotom, and he actually predicts that, goes for a Rock Slide. Still got a good amount of health, and I'm just going to go for a Hydro Pump. He has no switch into a Hydro Pump at this point. And yeah, I'm going to claim a kill. Here he goes for the multi-attack, and I have my done moment. He's going to take Rocky Helmet damage, so he's actually in good range. I was like, okay, well, at this point, Earthquake just cleans up. I don't need to worry at all. And after the Spike, I'm in range of a multi-attack, and it turns out he's Scarfed. So what happened on the turn that the Garbodor came in, for some reason, I think I got distracted by something, and I thought that he had switched moves. I was adamant that I had seen him go for multi-attack into parting shot. I was like, okay, well, my Scarf Extra Drill just outspeeds it, and we pick up a pretty easy win. That is not the case. It's not the case at all, as my Extra Drill is going to go down to a multi-attack, and I can still win this battle with Celebi. He has not actually seen that I've got Reflect. All he's seen is Toxic. So I know I take this multi-attack just fine. I go for a Reflect, and then I'm going to recover up. If he wants to go for U-turn on this turn, then that's fine. It's going to do nothing with that Reflect. And I'm just going to start clicking Earth Power. I have no reason not to. And yeah, 23%, pretty decent. As he goes for Parting Shot, trying to just lower me down. But Earth Power is still going to be able to take out the Inteleon from this range. And now the Silvally dies. I believe it just dies to this Earth Power. No, it doesn't. It takes one more. But multi-attack is just not going to be doing enough damage. And Celebi's going to pick up a second kill, and we go to 3-0 in this season. Somehow this Reflect Celebi came in clutch in the end. I don't know why it was so clutch. Like, literally, I think Reflect had one of the weirdest matchups, but it just worked out. It's not a set that you would have expected at all as well. And Tisse really was the MVP here, switching in to so many things and being able to take the damage, keep wishing. Wish pass into that Rotom was huge, because that Rotom checked a lot of his team. So yeah, good game to Rewt, really fun game. A little bit of hacks. I missed the Hurricane, he missed the Leech Seed. I think that was about it, but it was even on hacks. His one mattered probably more than mine, but in the grand scheme of things, like, I already just switched out on that turn, got into my Celebi anyway, so it's not a big deal. But I'm really happy with like how the prep worked out, albeit the prep kind of ended up being for the wrong things. It still worked out for me, which is really, really nice. And yeah, we go to 3-0 plus 7, I think it is now, which is one of my best starts, I think, to the season, or any season that I've had, which is kind of wild. And I believe our week 4 was meant to be against Kurt. I think that was my week 4 and not my week 5, but spoilers, we actually get a forfeit win. Unfortunately, Kurt and I live on like opposite sides of the planet, and getting our schedules to match up was really, really difficult. I was working 7 days straight on the week that we were meant to play the battle, and so that's my bad, we didn't get it done. But the week after, I was able to try and like give him a whole load of times, and unfortunately just none of them matched up with his schedule. So in the end, he decided to forfeit to me, I think because he was like 0-3 at the time, and I was 3-0. I don't know, I'm not inside his brain, but he decided to forfeit to me. So we actually go to 4-0 plus 10, and that is the best start I think I've ever had to a league outside of PTL Season 1. So hopefully we can keep it up. But the next battle you'll be seeing is actually our week 5 against Shuckleking and his OK Rillaboomers, and he is also 4-0 going into that game. I think week 4s have already gone up, so it's not a spoiler that I'm spoiling here. But he is also 4-0, so it'll be a 4-0 versus 4-0 team. And actually our week 6 against Mid as well, who currently is 4-0. So, yeah, we've got a tough couple of weeks coming up, but yeah, I will see you. I'm stuttering over my words here because I don't know how to end a video ever, but I will see you guys in the next video. If you did enjoy this one, please do leave a like and subscribe for the rest of the season. I hope to start uploading more Draft League content. I've got a few more leagues starting, and I kind of just want to work on my live comms, so I might be working on that in a couple of like less serious leagues, I guess is the way to put it. But yeah, until the next one, have a great day, guys. Peace.